I'll start off, I think, though, with renewed attacks and harassment of President Trump by leftists in Congress who are, I think, taking on the mantle that had been started or the mantle that was first created under the Obama administration in terms of its illicit spying and targeting of President Trump, handed off to Mueller and continuing now through the House of Representatives, now controlled by the president's political opponents, who are also controlling these other entities that I've been talking about. This week, the House Judiciary Committee, as part of an effort to overthrow the president, they want to remove him through impeachment. They don't have any good reason to do so, so they're trying to create one by sending out 81 document requests to virtually anybody and anyone associated with President Trump. It's truly breathtaking in the scope of the harassment of President Trump and his associates and his family, and I've never seen anything like it, especially in light of the fact there have been 2 congressional investigations into the so-called Russia collusion scandal that have gone nowhere, in the sense that they've shown there's no Russia collusion with President Trump. So they've decided to move on, which is to investigate every crackpot theory every leftist has concerning President Trump, targeting his taxes, targeting his business practices, targeting his activities before he was president, and targeting anyone, however tertiary to Mr. Trump, with harassing document requests. Now, these are document requests that in many ways are repetitive of other requests that other committees have sent to these individuals and entities, and requests that Congress has sent to these individuals and entities. So this is just piling on the part of Jerry Nadler, who is the new Democratic chairman of the Judiciary Committee. And as I said, it's about, they want to end the presidency of the United States. Now remember, the coup began during the 2017, the first few months of the Trump administration, where you had DOJ, FBI officials discussing removing the president through the improper use of the 25th Amendment, talking about wearing a wire on the president to get evidence to support that audacious coup effort. And then growing out of those conversations also was the appointment of a special counsel to try to find information to warrant the removal of President Trump. And now that's continuing through the House of Representatives, because as you know, all of that activity that I described was reliant on alleged evidence created by anti-Trumpers in the FBI in collusion with Hillary Clinton's and the DNC's Fusion GPS operation that was concocting information related to President Trump and Russia, just making it up as it relates to President Trump and Russia. So that hasn't gotten them what they needed to get, which was collusion evidence. They had the excuse to begin an investigation, or the pretext to begin an investigation, but because it was a fraud pretext, it went nowhere. So now the House is trying to, as I say, figure out what else they can get on President Trump. I mean, when you see Jerry Nadler go on TV and says, I have no evidence of obstruction of justice, and the purpose of the investigation is to get it. I mean, that's the Alice in Wonderland approach to congressional investigations. There's no evidence of misconduct, no evidence or facts related to misconduct by the president warranting these types of investigations. I'm old enough to remember, believe it or not, the Obama administration. Judicial Watch investigated President Obama's conduct as a senator, his connections with Chicago. The House and the Senate didn't do anything like that. I mean, the idea that you would go in and just for the yuck of it, go in and investigate president before he was president based on nothing is just unbelievable to me. And so all of these individuals are facing massive legal costs as a result of these letters. And my view on this is that these individuals should just say no to the document requests. They're harassing. They're designed to burden anyone close to President Trump. And what happens if you refuse? Well, the House of Representatives, the Judiciary Committee, can issue a subpoena. And you can refuse the subpoena in the sense that you can go to court and seek relief from having to follow the subpoena or respond to the subpoena. Or maybe you could just say, I'm not going to respond to the subpoena. If you want to enforce it, go to court and I'll answer you in court. And so in theory, the House of Representatives, the Judiciary Committee, could be forced to go to court 81 times to pursue its efforts to destroy President Trump. Now, is everyone going to respond that way? Obviously not. Some will. But there's got to be a fight about this. And, you know, it's interesting because Judicial Watch generally believes in oversight. We want to do oversight. But this is not oversight. This is abuse of power to target a president because you have a political dispute with him. Now, I understand that is the basis for a lot of oversight, but it can't be the basis for abusive oversight in the sense that you're sending out 81 document requests in one day, and we're being told this is just the beginning, that you can expect more. And it's targeting the president, his family members, his personal businesses, individuals who have been put through the ringer and abused already by both Congress and the Mueller operation, like Carter Page, the president's lawyers, which is obviously, they're just obviously picking a fight there. And so, you know, there's got to be a pushback. And, you know, I suggest one constitutional pushback, or I think one constitutional way of thinking about this is, why isn't there any oversight of Congress? And if I were the president, I would highlight the fact that the Freedom of Information Act doesn't apply to Congress. So Congress says that we have oversight responsibility over the executive branch, and they've given Judicial Watch and the rest of the American people the ability to conduct their own oversight, which we do better than Congress does through the Freedom of Information Act, but they've made themselves immune from the Freedom of Information Act. So there's no oversight of Congress. And so we can't ask questions about Ilhan Omar. We can't ask questions about Nancy Pelosi directly, or any Republican, any senator, any member of the House, and have those any refusals to answer those questions be litigated in court. I mean, we can always ask the questions, but they can just tell us no, and there's nothing we can do about it. So all those sexual harassment claims that were settled with taxpayer money, we can't ask anyone on the Hill for the information and go to court if they don't give it to us. Unlike what is available to us with the executive branch and the Freedom of Information Act. So if I were the president, you know, you litigate your rights, you defend your rights, both as president and personally. But you should also highlight the fact that Congress is not accountable to the American people through the Freedom of Information Act. And I think that's important. And also, why doesn't the president provide oversight over Congress? The legislative branch provides oversight over the executive branch. The executive branch has constitutional responsibilities that need to be informed by documents potentially from Congress. The president should think about providing oversight over Congress, asking Congress for documents. Maybe Congress can be asked for documents about Adam Schiff's collusion with Michael Cohen and Lanny Davis. Michael Cohen, the president's former attorney, who now it's reported was colluding with Adam Schiff on this testimony that turned out to be false. Maybe Congress can be asked questions about that through the executive branch. Wouldn't that be an interesting test, constitutionally speaking? Maybe Congress can be asked questions about its travel practices, its personnel practices, its administration, its spending of money. Billions are spent by Congress as a branch. They don't only appropriate funds for the agencies, the executive branch and the judiciary, but they appropriate funds for themselves. Where's the check on that? So I think we need to rethink this transparency issue in the sense of broadening it beyond the executive branch and demand transparency from Congress, oh yes, and from the federal courts, who are also immune from the Freedom of Information Act. So we've got this wildly berserk document request mania from the Judiciary Committee. We've got Cohen, who I've talked about repeatedly, violating the president's rights 6 ways to Sunday in collusion with the Democrats in Congress, both as an attorney, in terms of the attorney-client privileges and other privileges, and then frankly just lying outright. You know, I always take with a grain of salt when the opposition accuses a witness they don't like of lying under oath. You know, because what else, you know, that's an easy claim to make. But I've been persuaded that there are significant perjury issues for Michael Cohen. First of all, based on his motives, whether or not he did want a job in the White House. He says he didn't want a job in the White House, and it turns out he did, and there's all sorts of evidence both in the public domain and from his own words that he did. And then he testified how he didn't seek a pardon, and when in fact he did. Again, represented by a Clinton lawyer, or a Clinton associate, Lanny Davis. I don't know if he actually ever represented the Clintons, but he certainly worked Clinton White House as a lawyer and was close to Hillary Clinton, as I've described repeatedly here. And now it turns out Adam Schiff communicated with Cohen before the hearing. His staff at least met with him for 10 hours. A lot of questions there. And all of this needs to be examined. But it shows you, and in many ways, this is just, again, more corruption. See, when you target an American for illicit purposes, it's usually hard to honestly do. You got to kind of abuse your office to do so. So that's what was happening at the Department of Justice and the FBI and the State Department and NSA and CIA, all of which were, President Obama had an all-hands-on-deck approach to trying to destroy Donald Trump. And we're seeing it now with the House of Representatives with abuse of power to try to challenge President Trump. Look, I understand the Democrats are on the House of Representatives, and there's going to be increased oversight from their ideological perspective on the issues they care about of the Trump administration. But this isn't oversight. This is a vendetta, and this is a continuation of, in my view, the slow motion coup that began almost immediately upon the president's election. So we'll be monitoring that, and we'll be doing our own investigations. We already have an ethics complaint pending against Adam Schiff over his illicitly confirming classified information outside the rules of his committee in the House. Of course, the Ethics Committee on the Hill is controlled by 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. So all you need to do is have the Democrats or the Republicans stand in unison, and nothing will happen. And that's what's happened with Adam Schiff. The ethics process is broken in that regard, and Schiff is being protected. But it doesn't mean he's not ethically challenged, because it's pretty clear he broke the rules. And now we have this new information about his collusion with Cohen and his secret meeting with Glenn Simpson, the head of Fusion GPS out in Aspen, Colorado. So more ethics concerns for Adam Schiff, who runs the Intelligence Committee. So this is a big deal, and the president's facing attacks from all fronts. And you know, I want our Congress to defend the Republic, not undermine it. And this is what I fear is happening with this congressional jihad against the president and all of his people.